Hello, listeners. This is Kat, and welcome back to Put Your Hands Up Podfics. This will be the continuation of Little Acts of Kindness. This will be Part 20, Chapter 20, entitled The Obstacle Course. It's UA's Sports Festival, the one time each year when our fledgling heroes compete in a ruthless grand battle. Friends turn into enemies as each student competes against each other to earn that top spot. First up, we start with this year's cream of the crop. Yeah, you know who I'm talking about, the miraculous rising stars who brushed off a villain attack with their steely willpower. Bring in the first years of the hero course. They started walking out into the light, being momentarily deafened by the cheers, but Mike's voice still managed to make itself heard above the roar. It's Class 1A! Izuku wanted to curl up as he saw how the cameras were focused on them, that the people were all looking at his class. Still, at least they probably wouldn't pay too much attention to him. Mike called out a brief introduction for the other hero class, and then the general studies, support students, and the business course students. All the students gathered up in the center, and Midnight cracked her whip. Now, for the athlete's oath. Her eye twitched as students started talking. Shut it, she snapped, cracking her whip again. Your student representative this year is Bakugo Katsuki of Class 1A. It must be because he placed first in the entrance exam, Sero said. A girl from one of the other classes scoffed. The hero course entrance exam, you mean? The explosive blonde walked up to the mic. The athlete's oath, Bakugo started, hands in his pockets. Make no mistake about it, I'm going to take first place. Immediately, the other students started booing and jeering. Ida huffed. Why must you show contempt for the dignity of this event? Bakugo smirked. You'll all make great stepping stones, I'd say. The blonde stepped down and shoved himself past Izuku. Get ready to be crushed, Deku. Wow, Class 1A seems to have a real piece of work as their top student, Monama's voice commented, having appeared next to him. Gachan can be difficult, Izuku answered. What are you doing here? Uraraka asked, narrowing her eyes. Izuku blinked, wondering where the sudden hostility from her was coming from. Looking around, he noticed quite a few of his other classmates were glaring at Monoma. The blonde smirked. I just came to tell my rival that he better not lose in the first round. Same to you, Monoma, Izuku hesitantly replied. The kid laughed. As if I would. With that, the 1B student walked off, just as a girl with orange hair started to make her way over. Now, without any delay, let's get the first event started. Uraraka sweat dropped and muttered. Everything at UA's without delay. These are the qualifiers. It's in this stage that so many are sent home crying every year, and I can't wait to see their anguished faces when they realize that they couldn't even make it past the qualifier. The fateful first event for this year is... The screen seemed to blur as it spun through options. This, Midnight cheered, not looking back at the screen as she continued. The obstacle course is a race between every member of all 11 classes, and with each class holding about 20 students, that's 220 students competing in a 4-kilometer lap around the stadium itself. We here at UA pride ourselves on allowing our kids their freedom, which means... Midnight chuckled. So long as you don't go off course, anything is fair game. She said anything, but I don't think that includes murder, a student from another class commented. The light drifted down to 1, and then it went off. Go! Midnight cried out, cracking her whip as the students charged forward, but the starting gate was too narrow. Izuku looked forward as far as he could and saw Todoroki was up close to the front. Eyes widening, he realized what his classmate was planning, and as he felt the air drop temperature, he jumped up, using another student as a bit of a climbing tool, as he kept himself off the ground while it froze over. Mummy Man, are you ready for our live coverage and commentary? Mike's voice floated from the speakers. Not voluntarily. Aizawa responded, his voice barely picked up. Izuku was pretty sure he remembered something about a bet being mentioned. And it seems that Class A is pulling into the front with Todoroki freezing most of the competition into place. It gains them a short lead. Oh, that looked painful. Seems the first obstacle found them as one of the robots flicked Mineta away. He should have been paying more attention to his surroundings. How very true. Hopefully he remembers his lesson to never let your guard down. But of course, every obstacle course needs obstacles, starting with the first barrier, Robo Inferno. This obstacle includes maybe 9 or 10 0-pointers and a ton of 1, 2, and 3-pointers. The kids who took the Hero Course entrance exam may remember these. Izuku ran forward even as he listened to the commentary. He was closer to the front of the pack than the middle, but that didn't mean he had a clear view of what was happening. Which meant hearing Mike's commentary of 1A's Todoroki takes the lead, bursting through and sabotaging the others in one move. This guy's cold. Izuku looks around, eyes trying to take in everything he might be able to use. After all, he couldn't use one for all in this moment, and erasure wasn't useful against robots. But of course, the rest of his class isn't too far behind him, Mike cheered. Izuku grabbed a plate from a destroyed robot and used it as a weapon and shield. Class 1A knows that there's no time to waste hesitating. Unlike the other students who let fear overcome them, they know to push forward. It's logical after what they've faced. They've had that fear before. They endured it, overcome it. Each has grown from that experience and forgotten how to hesitate. Soon most of Class 1A was arriving at the second obstacle. While most of the students are still struggling to get past the first obstacle, the leaders of the pack have arrived at the second. If you thought the first barrier was a piece of cake, how about the second? Fall and you're out. Done. No longer allowed to participate. Get across any way you can, but if you don't have any special tricks, I recommend you crawl. This is the fall. Izuku saw that Uraraka and Ashido seemed to have paused, while another girl with pink hair was in the air. Why'd those idiots stop moving? Aizawa commented, an annoyed tone in his voice. Ashido squeaked and started moving forward, Uraraka moving as well. The leads keep breaking ahead while the rest of the pack is starting to catch up at the second obstacle. Izuku listened as he crawled along the ropes, knowing that no matter how much his hands burned, he had to keep pushing forward. Mike spoke of the minefield as Izuku finished climbing the ropes, and he made it to the minefield. His brain rushed for a way to catch up with the wide gap that was between him and the front. Quickly, he started digging up the mines. "Forgive me, recovery girl," Izuku murmured as he jumped up into the air, moving the piece of metal underneath him as he landed on top of the pile of mines he had made. A giant explosion from behind! What caused such a blast? An accident, or was it intentional? And look at the cameras! Class 1A's Midoriya rides the explosion in hot pursuit of Todoroki and Bakugo. This is the exact type of upset the mass media likes. He was going to land right about equal to them. He wouldn't be able to pass them up again if he couldn't maintain the lead. But did he want to take first place? "I don't want the attention. I just want to save people," Izuku had told All Might. The hero had understood and pointed out that Izuku was probably looking more for being an underground hero. He didn't need to win first place. And Midoriya blows off the competition with no time to lose. Your class really is something else, Eraserhead. I'm sure the audience would like to know what exactly you're teaching these kids. Izuku let go of the piece of metal he had been using, causing it to be a slight distraction for Bakugo and Todoroki as he stumbled his landing, his leg almost giving out from underneath him. Keeping his eyes peeled, he ran with Todoroki and Bakugo right next to him, but they quickly pushed past him as they gave up subtleties. This isn't my doing. They've been spurring each other all on their own. Izuku used the ice path Todoroki made to race right behind them. Well, who could have predicted such an incredible turn of events so early on? Now I wonder who... The one who made it back to the stadium first is Todoroki Shoto. Izuku finished right behind Bakugo and was now in third place. Deku! Uraraka called out. That was awesome! Third place, man! I'm jealous! To lose a race, of all things, with my quirk. It's clear I still have progress to make. Ida groaned in a shocked stupor. Izuku gave a hesitant shrug. The top 42 will move on from this qualifying round. But for those who place lower, don't worry, we've got another way for you to show off your stuff. But now, the main selection really begins. The press corps is going to be jumping out of their seats, so give it all you've got, but it's time for the second event. I, of course, already know what it is, but aren't you kiddos dying in suspense? Prepare yourselves for the Cavalry Battle. Midnight proceeded to explain how the Cavalry Battle would work, with it being teams of 2 to 4, with the goal being to get the most points, as the headbands would have a numerical volume. The surprise, the first place winner would have 10 million points. You have 15 minutes to form teams. Izuku quickly went to one person whose quirk he knew would be perfect, both for offense and defense. Tokiyami, he hesitantly called out to the bird-headed boy who seemed to be standing apart from everyone else. Yes, Midoriya. Would you and Dark Shadow be on my team? Tokiyami looked at him before bobbing his head. We would be pleased. Deku, Uraraka called out. Can I be a part of your team? Sure. Now we just need one more person. And I have an idea. Looking around, he spotted Monoma and went over. Monoma, would you join my team? We're rivals, though. Which means we should both make it to the finals. You got a plan, Midoriya? Yes, your quirk would guarantee us a spot in the finals. Of course it would. Monoma stated. The blonde-haired boy looked at him for a moment, but then nodded. I'll join you, on one condition. After agreeing, the team registered, with Monoma as the rider so he could have the most reach. They had a total of 550 points. The rest of the time was planning out strategies, and Monoma informed them he could copy 3 quirks but could only use 1 at a time. Tokiyami informed them that Dark Shadow was weak to light, and Uraraka said that she got sick if she used her quirk on herself. But the good thing was, they had Monoma, so the plan was to make all of them weightless without either becoming nauseous. They would start with Monoma using Dark Shadow, though, and use the 2 shadows to grab as many headbands as they could, even the 10 million if one of the shadows could snag it. Once they had a decent amount, then they would use Uraraka's quirk to float in the air, avoiding everyone they could. Izuku would use Erasure on anybody's quirk who was a threat, like, if they could get close to Todoroki, Izuku would cancel his quirk. All right, the 15 minutes are up. Everyone got into position. 3, 2, 1, start. All right, listeners, this concludes Chapter 20 of Little Acts of Kindness. Chapter 21 will be up next, which will cover the Cavalry Battle. Hope you all are enjoying this one still. Let me know your thoughts and reactions, and as always, thank you so much for listening.